Good morning, Abe Vigoda.
Good morning, Ken.
It's a pleasure to chat with you.
It's nice to be talking to you from Los Angeles to Illinois. But it's Bloomington, yes?
Yes, it sure is, and we love you back here. We've heard from a lot of people who think you're a very funny man, but actually you're a terrific actor because you've played not only funny roles but serious roles too, haven't you?
Yes, as a young actor, I played the classics. I was a leading player with the New York Shakespeare Festival, in which I played such roles as John of Gaunt in Richard II, King Alonzo in The Tempest, and so on. So I have been a serious actor, but in New York, when you are a stage actor, you do a variety of roles, from comedy to contemporary comedy to classical roles, and that's the beauty of it all. Mm-hmm.
In fact, even if you're doing comedy, that's serious acting, because in order to pull off comedy, you have to really pay attention to what you're doing, don't you?
Exactly. Well, comedy is the most difficult of all. Every little moment, your timing has to be exactly on the button, and your mind has to be a certain way with a sort of off-center, and it is indeed the most difficult acting thing to do.
Now, I've heard that said, come to think of it. People have said that it's easier to make people cry than it is to make them laugh, and yet Charlie Chaplin was revered because he was able to do both, I guess, in his films.
That is correct. That is correct.
Yeah.
But, of course, comedy and tragedy are closely associated. You see, out of tragedy sometimes comes a laugh, unfortunately, but that's what life is, you see.
We were laughing at your misfortunes in both Barney Miller and Fish, I think. In fact, have you ever paid much attention to what they write about when they talk about older TV shows, the shows that have been on?
Well, I know that there are some very good shows on television, and there are those that are not as good.
I want to talk about, I'm just going to quote something out of the complete directory to primetime network TV shows, 1946 through the present. They talk about Barney Miller, of course, and they list all of them. But, boy, do they pay you a compliment. They say 3 actors besides Hal Linden came over from the pilot to the series. Barney's 2 kids, David and Rachel, and they soon disappeared. But a broken-down old cop named Fish was the hit of the show. Not only did he look incredible, he sounded and acted like every breath might be his last. Maybe that's where the rumor started.
No, the rumor started actually in 1982, I think it was, when they had a wrap party for Barney Miller. In other words, after the Barney Miller series had completed itself, there was a big party in Hollywood. And I could not attend because I was working on the stage in Calgary, Canada. People magazine was there to write about a feature story on the wrap party. And they said, unfortunately, the late Abe Vigoda is not here.
Oh.
That's how it started in 1982.
So they never did print a retraction, and probably even if they did, people didn't notice that.
They didn't notice it. They didn't give me a big page to say, oh, we're sorry, Abe Vigoda is alive. What they did do was send me a basket of fruit in Canada.
Well, I read some bit of information recently that said your wife still gets condolences mailed to her, and some of them come from producers. Well, you don't want that to happen, do you?
Oh, I don't. In the early years, after 1982, 83, 84, 85, she did get a lot of letters to that effect, sending their condolences and how sorry they were that Abe Vigoda had died. Of course, that made her feel very bad. And but I think slowly but surely, they're beginning to realize, the public that is, and the industry, that I'm alive.
That's right.
I did 4 films last year. One is Look Who's Talking, about the baby. I play a 100-year-old grandfather.
John Travolta's grandfather.
Yeah, his grandfather. And that has been seen by millions of people because it's a big money maker. The other film that is out is entitled Prancer, the Reindeer Prancer, which was sort of a Christmas story in which I play a country veterinarian. So these 2 films are out now, And I think a lot of people are saying, hey, wait a minute, there's Abe Vigoda. He's alive.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting you mentioned Prancer because they filmed part of that not too far from right here.
Yes, we did it in LaPorte, Indiana.
Okay, and there's one scene, I guess, near the end of the movie, isn't there, that was filmed at Starved Rock here in Illinois.
Yes.
And another small town someplace, too, got filmed.
Yes, and it was a joy working in Indiana, in LaPorte and other areas nearby. It was very refreshing, and it was a great experience doing Prancer.
Yeah. Now, you have a couple of them coming up, too. Aren't you playing a Polynesian chief?
Yes.
Not a chief, but a chief?
Yes, I'm playing a Polynesian chief in a film entitled Joe versus the Volcano, with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan.
And this is a Steven Spielberg film, right?
Steven Spielberg is the producer, and that's going to be a big one. And that's coming out March the 2nd, I am told, which is not too far away. And then there's another one in which I play the leading role, or the co-lead, actually, in a film entitled Keaton's Cop, Keatons, Keaton's Cop, in which I play the title role. So they should both be out sometime between March and April.
That's not a play on the old Keystone Cop, is it?
Oh, no, this is a comedy action thriller. And the wonderful thing about it is that all of these roles that I'm doing, for example, in Look Who's Talking, I play a 100-year-old grandfather to John Travolta. In Prancer, I play a country veterinarian. And in Keaton's Cop, I play a mafia leader. In Joe versus the Volcano, I play the chief of a Polynesian island.
Are you the Polynesian type?
Oh, well, I don't know. I was in Hawaii doing it, and I must say they all thought I was, I guess they thought I was Polynesian. But it is a funny and it's going to be a great film, I think.
Yeah.
And, but it reminds me of my New York background, my Broadway background on the stage, where I played a variety of roles all of my life until The Godfather came along, which brought me to Hollywood.
Yeah, I would figure you'd have to be Italian to be in that one.
I know, but I'm not, but everybody thought I was, and it's an accomplishment when you're doing someone, a character, a person so different than yourself. And now I'm happy to say that Hollywood seems to be offering me roles that are quite different from each other instead of being typecast. As you know, Hollywood typecasts you very easily. After The Godfather, I must have played about 25 or 30 mafia roles. And then when I did Fish, Detective Fish on Bonnie Miller, everybody was calling me for a tired old cop with hemorrhoids. And I said, gee, I'm not really a tired old cop with hemorrhoids because I'm an athlete. I actually jog 2 to 3 miles per day, even today.
So you're active and you're vibrant, really.
Yes.
I was going to ask, what is the real Abe Vigoda like? Can you be a family man and be in show business?
Of course. I'm sort of how shall I put it, a conservative type of person. I live modestly. I have a daughter with 3 grandchildren. I have a lovely wife. Most of my friends, some are in show business, but a lot of them are not. They're in other fields. So I live a rather quiet, easy life.
You sound to me like you were destined to be in show business. Anybody that wants to go in it and just have a big car and a fancy home is going in for the wrong reason, aren't they?
That is correct. The way I got into it, really, at the age of 6, in the 1st grade in New York City, the teacher came into the class and said, would anyone like to audition for a role in a play entitled Candlelight? We need a 50-year-old man, a Baron von Richthofen, who finds his wife in the closet with a strange man, and who would like to audition. She looked. Everybody raised their hands, all the boys. She looked at me and she said, what is your name? And I said, Abe Vigoda. And she says, you look old. I think I'll give you the role, and that's how it started. It's a true story.
You know, Walter Brennan played all old parts from all I can tell, although he may have played younger parts, but he was one of those actors that just could do old people.
That's correct. Even today, it's followed me around. Many people who had seen Fish, Detective Fish, thought I was a lot older than I was at the time. And I do get fan mail even today from ladies, 80 years old, 85, some even 90, who'd like to take me out to dinner. They think I'm their contemporary. And really, I am in my 60s, so it just followed me around. There's an older countenance, so to speak, about me. Mm-hmm. And this is what's happened.
A maturity, maybe.
Yeah, but I must say, when I do plays, particularly on the stage, I've been offered roles much younger than myself, even leading men. It seems once the public knows you, the producers will offer you young leading men type men. When I say young, I don't mean 25-year-old leading men, but a 45-year-old man or a 40-year-old leading man. Mm-hmm. And I've done these plays in recent years with younger characters involved.
What is the key to doing all these different characters? We've just mentioned the diversity that you find yourself in. Do you work on? I'm listening to you now, and for some reason, Abe, you sound your speech pattern is different than I figured it would be. Considering I guess I associate you with the Fish character so closely. I'm typecasting you, whether I want to or not. I don't want to do that, but do you work on speech and delivery as well as taking on physical characteristics, or am I getting too technical here?
No. I could. When I was a young man in my teens and so forth, and I was joining various dramatic groups, they were offering me roles with good speech. And it seemed that I was able to do it. Though I came from New York City, where they say the Foist and 33rd Street and all that, for some reason, which I cannot explain, I was able to speak with sort of, how would I put it, sort of Oxford English. If they wanted an Englishman, I could do it. Mm-hmm. I did not have any lessons or speech classes in that regard. It's just something that was in me. I don't know how that came about, and to this very day, I can do a variety of dialects that I've never actually studied.
For instance, is this fair? Could you do a little Tessio? That was the part you played in The Godfather, right? If you were going to talk like Tessio, how would he talk?
Well, Tessio.
Is that hard? Does it take a while to get into character?
He was a New York man, Tessio, who was in the mafia, so to speak. But he looked at himself as a nice person. All villains think they are nice, They justify everything they do. As a matter of fact, Tessio would go to church. Tessio would like children. But when he would have to do away with somebody, he would say he really didn't want to do it. It was merely business, you see. Mm. So, but he was a New York gangster, so to speak, if you want to use that word.
Now let's go on the other side. You played the cop, Fish.
Now, Fish is the other side. Now, after playing, when I first did Tessio, police officers would stop me on the street and say, "I've seen you somewhere, maybe in a rogues gallery or something." They'd see the film. They didn't know me then enough. They didn't know my name. They just knew the face.
I think I saw you in the post office on the wall.
Yeah, something like that. Not quite. But anyway, when I did Detective Fish, well, now the police department were very kind to me. It made me an honorary member in many police precincts throughout the United States.
Yeah.
I'm an honorary sergeant detective in the city of New York. I am an honorary sergeant detective in Philadelphia. The police commission. I had the Mike Douglas show, and he called up. That is the commissioner of police. He says, "I hear Abe Vigoda's on your show. I'm a fan of his, and all the detectives are here in the precinct. Would you send them down, or we'll give you some parking tickets?" So Mike Douglas said, "Yeah, Abe, would you do me the favor? Go down and see the commissioner and the boys, because they've been giving us parking tickets." But this has been the background of doing Detective Fish a little.
That's funny. When I think of the original Brown Bagger, I think of your character Fish. I can just see you opening up your lunch bag and being disappointed at what was packed. For some reason that just sticks in my head.
Oh, the brown bomber?
Well, you just look like you were always disgusted. Everything was wrong. I mean, the lunch was wrong. In fact, let me read what they say about you here. Not only did you look incredible, you were the hit of the show. You acted like every breath might be your last. Fish was always on the verge of retirement, and his worst day was when the station house toilet broke down.
Oh.
He was constantly complaining about everything, especially his seldom-seen wife, Bernice, right?
Yeah.
But didn't she pack your lunches, or am I daydreaming that now? Didn't you always?
She did. We were not wealthy people. I just had a job with the New York City Police Department. But I took Fish from life itself in a way because sometimes we try so hard to do good and everything falls apart, and we're always disappointed in so many things during the day and in life. And so Fish was representative of that. I thought he was quite pessimistic, but at the same time, in an emergency, he would come to the aid of anyone who needed help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it looked like he just put in too long a day yesterday, and you knew you were going to have a long day today.
Yeah.
And
well, yeah. He's accepted it, so to speak, and refused to get excited about it.
That's right. Would you mind talking to somebody out there?
Sure, my pleasure.
We have Abe Vigoda on the line this morning. 829-2345 is our telephone number, or 1-800-322-9377. I love watching your work. I just think you're terrific.
Thank you, Ken.
And this is fun talking to you. But I'm thinking maybe there's some other questions people have.
All right.
If they want to call in, 829-2345, as I said, or 1-800-322-9377. You, not very many shows anymore, really spin off of other shows. Of course, Barney Miller was the one that made the Fish character, I suppose. But then you took it one step further, and we saw what life was like for you in the home when you came home from Barney Miller.
Yes.
And that was still running while Barney Miller was on, wasn't it? You were doing two shows at once.
Yes, that is correct. What happened there was this. The network was receiving a great deal of fan mail for Fish, for Detective Fish and myself, so to speak. And they said, I think you should have your own series. You've got a big audience out there, and so I became what we call in the business a spin-off of Barney Miller and into Fish, my own series, Fish, with a wife and a group home of delinquent children who drove me crazy.
So life didn't get any better once you were home from the office.
Yes.
Let me take a phone call. Good morning. You're on the air with Abe Vigoda.
Okay, I don't have a question. I just want to say I'm glad he is alive. We always thought he had died after the series was over, really. And why couldn't they get that same group together, as many as possible, and do another show? We're still watching the reruns. We just loved it. He was great. You're right.
Yeah.
Thought the poor man just had a rough life every day. Every day.
What is that about human nature? We all feel better when we see somebody suffering worse than we are, as long as we know they're not really in terrible pain, right?
Well, I guess that's true, but I mean, you just couldn't believe what he puts into that at work and then going home and suffering at home too,
Yeah, there's some reassurance there, Abe, that we knew that you were going to be back the next day. You weren't going to quit. You were not a quitter.
Well, I think people relate to the suffering of individuals who go through life, and I think that was the key to the popularity, that people could relate to the character Fish so well.
Yeah. There's something else to be said about the directing of that show. There weren't too many shows, and that was one of the first to be videotaped that really made it, as I recall. There was a certain look that they were able to capture that almost looked like it was on film, and yet it was still videotaped.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Did they do it any different? I don't want to get real technical here, but I remember the first time Newhart's show, his new show came out. The first season it was on videotape, and I said, to myself, it looks wrong. It should be on film. And I interviewed Newhart, and I mentioned that to him. He says, it's interesting. And I'll be darned, the next year they filmed it, and it's been on film ever since. But Barney Miller had a great look to it. It was on videotape, and I guess Fish was too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was on videotape, yes.
Yeah. Did they do anything differently to make it look like it's on? The way the cameras were set up or something? Did you run through the whole show, or were they done up in setups?
No, we had four cameras working at the same time.
I see.
Okay. And perhaps that helped a great deal.
Maybe. Thank you for calling. It's nice to hear from people who like your work. You know it?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. You're on the air. Good morning.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to say, As Fish, Abe was probably one of the best characters I've ever seen in any kind of a sitcom, and also wanted to say that his voice now, it sounds so aristocratic, and that even though he's put on his humor and everything like that, it just sounds like a person that could play just about any part ever. And then I had a question, what was it like to work with like Ron Glass and Steve Landisberg and some of the other people? Did everybody on the set usually get along pretty well?
Oh, everybody got along beautifully. We had a lot of fun. It was like sort of what we call an ensemble group, and I think that helped the show a great deal. The fun. Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks very much, and you got a lot of fans, I know that.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Barney Miller did enjoy some great success. In fact, it still is, as we said. It's in syndication. Is Fish still being circulated?
It wasn't for several years after it was off the air. It ran 35 episodes, or 2 seasons, and usually it does not go into syndication, but it did, which meant, according to some people, that it should never have gone off the air, that is Fish, because it actually made money.
Mm-hmm.
And ran in syndication with 35 episodes for several years, up to recently.
You know, I think it took the brass to realize, it took a while for them to realize that numbers maybe weren't going to be as high as they'd hoped with all of the new alternatives there are for viewing anymore. It's pretty hard to show the same kind of shares that back in the golden days of television they were able to muster, because there were only 3 networks at that time. Now you got all sorts of choices, cable choices, and all the rest of it, right?
It's quite different now, yes. It is different, indeed. And cable has put a dent, of course, in network programming and viewing, I should say.
Yeah. So a successful show probably will have a smaller audience today than a successful show would have had, say
15 years ago.
Exactly.
Yes, that is true. Mm-hmm.
You're on the air with... Whoops, I lost somebody there. If you want to get in very quickly, we only have about a minute and a half left. But I was going to bring up another name, Jack Sue,
yes,
who I guess got his start in Flower Drum Song.
Yes.
Is one actor who is no longer with us, unfortunately.
Yes, yeah. Jack Sue was wonderful in Barney Miller, and he was certainly missed a lot. He just wonderful working with him. He was a lovely man, and well,
He passed away. It's been several years, I think, hasn't it?
Yes, now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The point is, what we're making today is Abe Vigoda is alive and well, and you can still see his work. And Prancer, as we mentioned, I don't think that's that may be still in town, come to think of it. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Probably Look Who's Talking is in town.
Yeah.
But that's been quite a hit.
And we should be watching for Joe versus the Volcano and also Keaton's Cop.
Yes, yes.
Now, yesterday you were doing some looping, weren't you?
I was yesterday. I did some looping. Yes.
Which is really what? Recording sound?
Yeah. Sometimes there's noise in the background, you see, and you don't hear the dialogue as clear as it should be, and so you synchronize, so to speak, with that and do it again.
So you're watching yourself on screen.
Yes.
And trying to talk at the same rate you talked when you originally filmed it, right?
Yes. I had very little to do, just about 10 minutes of it. Just one little piece was a little noisy in the background, but it was an easy one. I think this is going to be... It's really about 200 different natives are on the island, and it's quite an epic, Joe versus the volcano, and that's why we have all this noise, you see. And the volcano, that makes a little noise, too, you see.
What do you prefer doing? I only have about a minute left here, and I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being on with us today, because we had a bit of a mix-up yesterday.
Oh, that's perfectly all right. These things happen all the time. You can't help it, you see.
But what do you like to do best? Now, do you still enjoy doing theater better than movies versus TV, or, what order would you put them in as far as your favorites?
Well, actually, I like all medium. All media, so to speak. I love the stage. I came from the stage. I was originally a Broadway actor up to my middle age until The Godfather, and then Paramount Pictures called me, and I did many films here in Hollywood, and then out of left field came Barney Miller, the Detective Fish, and that kept me here, and I bought a home here, and but I love them all, and I would like to do another play on Broadway. I'm looking forward to finding the right play.
Okay. You like that reaction of an audience immediately, I think, like everybody else does.
I do.
Yeah.
Film is a challenge as well. there's a transition required from the stage to movie making to the film.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically the same thing, but there is a transition required.
Yeah.
And if you can do it, you're in business, so to speak.
I would guess a TV show with a live audience might be close to the theater experience.
Yes, yes. But of course, theater experience, you see, you have more rehearsal period, you have more development involved. Mm-hmm. When you do a play, when you do a TV show, you have to be quick and very fast, and there's very little time to do to develop things. You see, so when you see a show such as Bonnie Miller or Fish, hopefully, and it's good, they really deserve a medal.
If you were to say one thing to an aspiring actor or actress who's wanting to make it somewhere, what would you suggest?
I would suggest if you want to be an actor and you want to do movies or you want to do plays, first go to the stage, study on stage, appear on stage, work possibly in New York or any major theater company for at least 5 to 10 years, and then go into movies. It'll be quite easy for you then.
If you can get that break, right?
If you can get that break.
Yeah, that's what it takes. I doubt if very many people quit the business because they don't like it. It's probably because that break doesn't come along, or...
Well, there's so many talented young people out there that just don't get the break. There is one job, and 100 actors apply for that one job. And now we know that in the 99 actors who do not get the job, we know there are a lot of talented people among them.
Yeah. Well, I want to wish you, can I wish an actor good luck? I guess you don't want to say good luck in the theater, but outside it's okay to say that, isn't it?
Of course. Good luck is good luck anytime, anywhere.
All right.
It's welcome.
Well, the continued success with the career, and we'll look forward to seeing a whole lot more, and maybe we can visit again sometime, too.
Thank you very much, Ken.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Abe Vigoda.